right out of the gate, we can all agree the art and animation kind of lost its mind this week, right? Like, that's the only way I can describe what the fuck even happened here. Like, holy shit. Okay, so yeah, the episode this week, practically from the very start of the episode, you can tell Toei's been holding back for this very moment in time in the story for when they can put everything they've got into the Yonko versus the Worst Generation. And while seeing this amount of effort being pulled into this fight does make me a little concerned for some of the other Straw Hat fights, for now that's an issue for another time because it's really kind of amazing just from how much attention the Toei animation gave this episode. Like, don't get me wrong, Toei's been really stepping up their game in the animation department recently, but this was kind of like just everything just imploded and they just went all fucking out. Let's just go all out kind of thing. No restraints, no nothing. Let's just do it. Let's just go fucking bonkers, bananas, everything. They just did everything they could do with this episode, and they did it, and I kind of love it. And I just love how they gave this episode and this moment in time of the story just the attention it deserves. And the other thing about it too is that while the whole spectacle of this fight is great, and just the whole fight in itself like lended itself to the art and animation, the art and the level of detail in the art and animation this week actually fixed a major problem I've been having for a while in the anime, which is from just kids CGI when using his ability and activating his punk rotten ability. Now, don't get me wrong, the Toei Toei still pretty much uses a lot of CG, uses CG in kids punk rotten technique, but in this episode it feels like they made they kind of made a greater attempt to actually blend the CGI into the background and combine it with a lot more like a lot more 2D work as well, whereas before they just mostly relied on CG, causing it to stick out a lot more and make any scene with Kid using that technique or any kind of technique where he harnesses his powers kind of awkward. So yeah, overall, Toei visually knocked every aspect of this episode out of the fucking ballpark, to the point where I had trouble trying to pick what image to even use as a thumbnail. Like, that's the other thing about this episode. There are so many fucking moments where the art animation obviously explodes, but it's like, just whether it's from Zoro, whether it's from Luffy, whether it's from Kid, whether it's from Law, any character in this has a moment where the art and animation just explodes onto the screen, and I kind of love it. I really love this episode. So yeah, with that said, because the whole episode is basically one giant fight scene, there's not a whole lot to talk about with the pacing of the actual story within, but we do get quite a bit of characterization from Kaido. And carrying over from the fight against the Yakuza to this fight, we do get to see just how much of a psychotic masochist Kaido really is. Like, he truly does live in the moment. His only desire ever is to fight, to test his limits, to push himself beyond, to see if he can push himself beyond what's capable of, and if there's anyone who can even match the level of strength. Like, he's almost like, you can almost see he's kind of desperate for someone to become stronger than him. Like he kind of already made that point clear where he said he wants to die, but it's like here we really get to see that, yeah, the man really does want to see someone who can even surpass him, who can be strong enough who can almost be strong enough in order to match his strength, and to just push to see who that person is going to be, to push his body to its absolute limit. And as of right now, it seems like he's having all of his hopes on Luffy, because Luffy really did show that yeah, he can very well do what he might be the one who's capable of like actually pushing Kaido to those limitations that he's always wanted, and like everything. And don't get me wrong, while this is something we've always known about the character, I think it's also the first time we've seen the depths of just how far he takes it. And we're slowly getting to see that point where he's feeling true ecstasy. And if only for a brief moment, if only for brief moments, he's starting to relive the feelings he experienced when fighting not just Odin, but even in his early years as part of Rox's crew. Like, he wants to feel that feeling of pushing. Again, he wants to feel that feeling that he used to feel of just exhilaration of fighting. And and while he's not entirely there yet, witnessing Luffy, Law, and Kid display their combined strength against him definitely has got him, I think, close to reaching that point. And as shown, their attacks aren't... It's one of those interesting things, too, where, as shown in the episode, their attacks aren't having any major effects, but at the same time, their attacks are chipping away at Kaido, and it is still enough to leave a mark. And wounds like that, however small, do add up. Also, speaking of the three idiots, as Kaido put them, I think this is probably the most I've ever really liked the dynamic between Luffy, Law, and Kid, with just how the series itself takes full advantage of having their three massive egos clash. And honestly, it makes for some great comedic moments, and honestly, I do kind of feel sorry for Law in this moment, where he's just being used as everyone's tool. As he said, he's being used as everyone's tool in order for their own use. Like I hate to tell you, Kid, I hate to tell you, Law, but your abilities do kind of lend itself to being used in that way, even if you don't want to admit it. Like, I know you got your pride and all that, but yeah, your ability is kind of an easy use, dude. I'm just saying. One thing I also like is how there were moments there were definitely moments in this episode where it was shown to us that there were a couple for as good as everyone was doing in this episode, there were a couple major mistakes that Luffy, Law, and Kid were making. There were a couple mistakes Luffy and Law and Kid were making, which is during this fight, they've been focusing so much on Kaido that they forgot about Big Mom, and it's sometimes easy to forget that she is one of the Yonko, and even harder to take her seriously with how much that Big Mom does get tossed around. But as shown just in the back half of this episode, she is still a credible threat to Luffy and the others, especially as she herself said, the elements are her weapon, and as long as there's a sky above their heads, there is reason to be worried about Big Mom just as much as Kaido, maybe even more so. Now, granted, that's not going to stop those moments from still happening, and with the anime, I'm sure it'll be worse, but it is a nice reminder that you cannot turn your back on Big Mom. And maybe it's just a presentation thing, but I feel like the anime, for now, at least in this moment, is treating her as that much more serious threat, at least within this episode. And I do appreciate it for that. Of course, one of the other major mistakes that was made in this episode was by Zoro. And I think I said this back in the manga too, but Zoro used Enma a little too early. Like, at least in my mind, like, if Zoro had just waited a little bit longer and to a point where pretty much Kaido was like distracted by Luffy or something, if he had just waited for another moment where he could go up against, where Kaido was distracted and he had a clear shot at him, I think he might have succeeded in landing a blow and catching Kaido off guard. But now, because of the kind of power he unleashed and because of what happened in this episode, Zoro is now on Kaido's radar, maybe even way more than Luffy now. Like, the secret event and the secret of Enma has been exposed to some degree, and that's not the kind of position you want to be in when fighting Kaido, because now Kaido kind of knows what's coming, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens from here with this, with Enma's power now revealed to him, at least a fraction of it. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, handle is Control. Be sure to notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just hit the video around, guys. Dark Knight of me, signing off. Later, everyone.